He's not a bat, he's a man who fights crime. And we're gonna watch him fight for a minute at a time. With John and Niall and a guest who doesn't rhyme. It's Bat Minute!
Hello, and welcome once again to Bat Minute Returns, the podcast where we get fried alive by the sequel to Tim Burton's 1989 Batman movie, Batman Returns, 1 minute at a time. I am one of the hosts, Niall McGowan.
And here to give you those sweet, sweet electric kisses right down your ear hole, it is I, John Parker.
And then we have returning from Monday's Minute and, returning from previous seasons, the host of the one-time Cabin Minute cast, well, one of the hosts, with our previous guest, Heidi Bennett, and one of the current co-hosts of Escape from New York Minutes, Molly Bailen.
Hello!
I'm still happy still like that hello from Cabin Minute cast is still going.
Yeah, I miss it. I've been trying to put a lid on it for Escape from New York Minute, and I just can't stop. I love it so much. Just makes my heart sing.
Everyone has to develop a hello. Like in real life, I often will say, this is going to be the weirdest reference ever. I will often say hello like the character of Abe from Abe's Odyssey. The Oddworld game.
Hello. Yeah.
Follow me. Okay.
I was playing that because one of my friends for Christmas got the PS1 emulator, like that little tiny version.
Oh, so it got that on it, yeah.
And we were in another friend's house, and his little brother was there, he's like 18 or something now. Maybe he's even younger, might be like 16 or 17. And he put on Abe's Odyssey, and we were so wrapped up in it. You've never seen like a churlish child been just like, what is this? This is stupid. And we're like,
no,
this
like
game was amazing back in the day. The thing is, I only ever had Abe's Odyssey because when you bought the PS1, you were given that demo disc.
Oh, you got the demo with it? Okay,
yeah, and I never got past a certain point. So I know the first level of Abe's Odyssey like the back of my hand. And I never played the rest of it.
Well, that was back in the day where that was acceptable, though. You could play a demo of a game like every day for 4 years. And it's fine. That's not weird.
Like, imagine now, like, oh, you got Arkham Knight. You can go and do the first bit over and over again. But you can't go past this one street. And you're like, what the hell? People complain now they're giving you a whole city to play in. And you're like, why isn't there more? Why isn't there more to this city? This entire city you've constructed within the computer. But they go back then, it's like, yeah, right now. I think we mentioned it on the show before. Like, I played Streets of Rage 1 a couple of years ago for the first time in many years. And I was surprised that I finished it in one night because I remember playing that game to death. And it'd been insanely difficult. And then now it's just like, oh, this is really, really easy.
It's because you would just play it again. You didn't care. Because we were kids as well, though, because I would only get, like 3 games a year. So you had to play those games.
No, yeah. There was always a tension because, like, if you got a bad one, you're kind of stuck with
it. You had to make sure you were getting the good one. That's where the magazines came in.
Yeah. But anywho,
Batman.
Yes, Streets of Rage minute.
Oh my God, yes. Let's do Streets of Rage level by level and break it down.
Well, it could be. Well, yeah, no, see. No one's ever suggested that. You got a lot of people in the Movies by Minute page been like, oh, books by chapter and stuff like that. No one's been like games by level. It could be an interesting one. But yes, today we're here to talk about minute 116 of Batman Returns, which begins with Selina lamenting the one life that she has left. And it ends 1 minute later with the reappearance by Oswald Cobblepot. Like, oh, Oswald, so glad you can join us after all this time. But yeah, we'll just hop on in here. Because, we get in now. Selina has the line like, oh, one life left. Maybe I'll save it for next Christmas.
Yeah, what is she planning to do next year exactly that needs another life being kept in spare?
Like in your attitude, Jaws. Like, what are you planning to do? Just kill yourself now and get it over with.
Yeah, god damn it. Just do it. She is practically dying on her feet here.
Yeah.
I will say, because we're joking about, like, oh, maybe Max Shrek is just a terrible shot. You can see there's at least one bullet wound, like a seeping wound on her shoulder. So he did get her at least once. But the rest of the time, he could have shot Batman a bunch more times. He just didn't see. It's like, oh, Bruce Wayne hasn't got a foot anymore. It's like, oh yeah, Max Shrek accidentally blew it off when he was aiming for Catwoman's head. It's again the classic line of Dumb and Dumber comes right in. It's like, oh, why didn't you shoot him in the face? It's like, why isn't he shooting her in the head? What are you doing? All these body shots. He was even when he was going for that kill shot when she was right up with him, was in the gut. Just go. She's right there, pointed in her eye.
Bang.
This was a line though, because she's like, oh well. Meanwhile, she says, meanwhile, how about a kiss, Santa Claus? Weird thing. For years up until this week, I always thought she said, meanwhile, I want to kiss Santa Claus.
Oh. But that also kind of works, you know? Because he's kind of a thin, angry, non-giving Santa Claus in a way, but
Grinch, one could say.
Technically, he was even kind of giving earlier when he was throwing all those boxes out into the crowds. Like, we're saying that he could have been throwing out freaking whole microwaves into a crowd of people. Like,
just hitting people on the head. Well, if you look in the script, though, Niall, she does actually say, and this annoys me, Santa Claus. What's with that pronunciation? Is this an American thing? Is this like how kids say it or something?
Could be Tim Burton alluding to the next film he's going to be associated with, Santa Claus. Yeah,
well, it just made me think and want to listen nonstop to the Damned song Ain't No Sanity Claus, because I absolutely love that. It's my favorite Christmas tune. Of course it is. It's the Damned.
Yeah, alluding to a line from the second best Marx Brothers movie, A Night at the Opera, there as well. But,
knowing Dave Vanian, the singer, it will be a reference to that, I think.
Oh, for sure. I think that's like one of their most famous bits. Is like, there ain't no Santa Claus and all that. But but yeah, that's like. It's a good line though. It's just like, because I was going, how can I elaborate on that? It's like, I can't. No, it's a good line. Like, meanwhile, I want to kiss Santa Claus. Or how about a kiss? Oh my god, I keep saying I want to kiss Santa Claus. How about a kiss Santa Claus?
I mean, we all want to kiss Santa Claus, Niall. Come on.
I guess it is. It's kind of evoking back to at the beginning of the movie. Yeah, Max Shrek was presented to the Gotham public, the naive public, as like he is like Santa Claus. Like he's just like he's out there giving, you know, he wishes he could give more than expensive baubles, but that's what he was doing. He's out throwing friggin', as far as he knew, like whole samurai swords into a crowd.
Which would be pretty badass. I mean, as long as it doesn't like, you know, clip you, or, you know, you're throwing it out like a helicopter rudder or something. But, you know, I can imagine if you're, you know, 14 years old and you're into sweet Japanese cutlery, that might be kind of awesome.
Hell yeah, I would have loved that.
Oh, that's... I've never heard a samurai sword described as sweet Japanese cutlery before.
That's the episode title right there.
But now, because then, this is the thing. This happens, and so we have to sort of clarify exactly what Selina does here. She reaches up the taser to her mouth, kisses Max Shrek, and the taser's going into his mouth. And then I think it's the illusion is that she's grabbed an electric pylon, sank her claws into it, so the electricity is coursing through her and into him via the kiss. That's supposed to be what's happening here.
Yeah, like I never got that, because you don't see her claws do anything. But I didn't actually. This is a bit stupid of me. I didn't look in the script. In the strict revised draft, though, she does visibly sink her claws into that cable.
Yeah. I think they should have had more of a shot of that, because when I was a kid, I always just thought she was just randomly tearing down the cable to kind of make her escape, because she knew it would cause loads of explosions. And the reason Max Shrek is electrocuted is because of the taser. which now is like a taser couldn't do that to you. Like you wouldn't be that bad. But so now it is it's like, oh no, it's the electricity is coursing through her and like into him via the kiss and stuff. So
I thought it was kind of similar. I thought it was like in my mind as a kid, if you grab that cable while you're doing it, it just amplifies the taser. It superpowers it.
I think it could have been more apparent had she not done the taser thing. Like the taser's just there to harken back. It's like full circle. That one of the first things that Selina Kyle did when she started her life was kind of changing when she picked up a taser from the clown guy. And, it was the first inclination of like, oh, maybe Selina Kyle's got a bad side because she, stunned the guy and stuff when he was unconscious. And it's like, now it's like, now she's, here we are. She's back to the taser again. But I think it would have been clearer had she just kissed him and then sunk her claws in. We had a proper shot of her sinking her claws into the electric pylon. And it might have prevented the confusion, but maybe it was just... Were you ever confused by it, Molly? Or did you always get that this was supposed to be what was happening?
No, I've been hugely confused by this. I've seen this movie several times, and it's always been a little nebulous to me, like what the electrical mechanics are, because I'm like, I don't understand why we're holding on to the taser other than for the reason that you're saying, Niall, that this is hearkening back to, the beginning of the movie. But functionally, I don't know what it does to complete a circuit to kill Max. And I also don't know where she's been holding on to this thing this whole time.
Oh, that is another point, because we've mentioned several times, like, oh yeah, but never noticed that she always has the whip wrapped around her, because when as a kid it's like, oh, this whip just magically appears somehow, like in a computer game, like all of a sudden she just has the thing she needs. But at least they had a practical reason as to why the whip was there. This taser is like, where was she keeping that? Like, in her boot?
I've got that written down. That's one of my notes is, where was this taser?
This is like fast, because she's got a kind of corset thing, but she just kind of stuff it down inside the corset. Like, what?
No, that suit is far too skin tight to be carrying anything.
Mm-hmm.
She's not got anything on her. It makes no sense. It's huge, that taser.
Mm-hmm. It is, yeah. I mean, that's like an 80s cell phone. And so I don't know where that was, because I mean, sometimes ladies will, throw keys down the front of their shirt, in their bra if they got a little room. So I understand, kind of like a marsupial, you toss something down there, but there's no room for that in this case. So yeah.
No, not taser.
Not a taser. I don't know.
I don't even understand keys. That's baffling to me. Or money, I get. That wouldn't hurt, but a key?
No, so yeah, it's just it's almost I'm almost beginning to think that there's some elements of this movie that aren't quite realistic. But
shut up! Don't you dare insult this. This is my Bible.
I did also note as well. Before we started this season, I made a point to rewatch the other movie that Michelle Pfeiffer and Chris Walken share screen time in, the remake of Hairspray. The one that came out like 2007.
Oh, yeah, I've not seen the remake, actually.
It's actually pretty good. It's still baffling to me, because I'm a big John Waters fan. Like, met him once, no big deal.
Cool.
But, like, yeah, big John Waters fan. Really love all the dirty, gritty stuff that he's done. And it's still baffling to me that, like, oh yeah, John Waters' movie has been remade into, like, this family classic, where it's, like, a really wholesome, with a really nice, wholesome message about, like, racial integration and things like that. It's like, oh yeah, this is a really, really nice little movie for kids and stuff.
Well, I mean, the original isn't too far from that. Really.
Oh no, yeah, the original is like John Waters really toned down, but like, it's...
yeah, not in a bad way though. Like,
no,
I'm 50-50 on John Waters, as you know now. Like, I love some of them, dislike others quite a bit. Like, I don't really have a middle ground. I am either really into him or I'm not.
Yeah,
and I was really into that.
But in the remake, Walken plays like the dad, the what's her name, Tracy Turnblad, the main character, and it was of course played by Jerry Stiller, Ben Stiller's dad, George Costanza's dad in Seinfeld in the original movie, and Michelle Pfeiffer plays the role Debbie Harry had in the original one, and she's like, it's bizarre though, because like Michelle Pfeiffer, I actually kind of liked this scene. What I was complaining about last minute was like, Michelle Pfeiffer is on fire in that movie. She is so into the role, so invested in it. She's singing great. She's doing everything great. And Walken shows up in that film just like, hey, it's me. It's Chris. I'm in a movie. We're doing a crazy movie with like singing and dancing, and Travolta's dressed up in a big fat suit and stuff. It's crazy. Like, and he's just like, and throughout the whole scene, they have a big musical number where she's trying to seduce Walken in a joke shop. And he's just kind of standing there, just been Chris Walken. I was like, hey, it's me. You know, it's like, go out. There's a bit at the end where he's supposed to be like a big emotional moment. He's like, you go out there, honey. And he's just got this big smile. And it's like, you're not even trying, Chris. Come on.
He doesn't care. He does what he wants.
I think at that point of his life, I think at this point in his career, Walken is very safely in like, you'll hire me just because I'm Chris Walken. And I don't have anything to prove to you. Like, I'll have to show up and do what I want. They have a little, because, you know, she's trying to seduce Walken in a joke shop, and he's handing her various novelty things that kind of break the sexual tension and stuff. And actually, because he's mostly oblivious to what she's trying to do as well. And at one point, he electrocutes her. Like, he gives her a little joy buzzer, like the Joker has. And I was like, were they aware at the time that, like, Michelle Pfeiffer electrocuted Chris Walken the last time they were together? Now he's electrocuting her? Like, is that, or is it just like it's a joy buzzer. We didn't think about it. But the thing is, if it wasn't that, like, immediately previous to it, at one point he hands her a gun, and she clicks it, and it's the little bang flag comes out. And it's the same exact design of bang flag that the Joker has in the first movie. So it's kind of like, are they like, oh, she's a Batman villain. Remember this from the first Batman movie? But it could just also be that, like, no, back in the 50s, all the bang guns, there was only one brand, and they all had an exact flag or something.
Yeah, I think I've only ever seen that one.
I've seen other ones, variations, but again, that could have been like the original it's a red flag with a white thing in the middle and the bang. So, you never know, but it did also get me down the line of like, I was like, oh yeah, Walken's taken over from Jerry Stiller. Wouldn't it have been great if Jerry Stiller had played Max Schreck? I was like, oh, it would have been amazing if Jerry Stiller was playing Max Schreck.
Hell yeah.
Just friggin' George Costanza's dad just coming in here. It's like, I wish I could give you more than expensive baubles. And just like, Ben Stiller's playing Chip Shrek then.
Oh my god.
Ben Stiller or Jason Alexander as Chip Shrek would have been like, how can you make this movie better? That's how you do it.
Special edition, we'll CGI them in. It's fine.
Those are good. They're all still working too. Jerry Stiller's still going. Like, you could, like, of course I'll be in your stupid Batman remix.
It'd be game, I think. Actually, this bit with the kiss, though, basically, they essentially explode in a ball of light and sparks and fire. Niall, you can probably guess what this reminded me of. When I was watching it, all I was thinking in my mind was Richard's death in Twin Peaks: The Return.
That didn't remind me of that, actually. But yeah, I mean, good pull. But...
Now that's all you're going to see, yeah? So Richard Horn exploding into a ball of flames. Instead of, why am I spoiling Twin Peaks?
No, I think we've spoiled Twin Peaks enough on the show over there.
Go and watch it if you haven't, fools.
I was actually, though, because again, looking at it minute by minute, it is at like, if you're watching the various explosions happen, I think it's at second 27, you can see them move within the explosion. You can see, like, she either pulls Shrek back or he lunges forward or something. But you do see that they weren't just standing there. There was movement within the wreckage, as it were.
Yeah, they walk off to one side, which we're going to have to see where the body ends up, because to me it looks like that's the stunt people getting out of the way rather than that's supposed to be in the film. Because isn't the body kind of where you last saw Shrek?
Yeah. I just took it to be more like she was leaving him over there, and then... But then that's going to be the eternal debate, like in the last couple of episodes. It's like, is Catwoman... Does she die here as well? But the movie is very much indicating no. But if you want to, you can say that she does. But
Well, in the original drafts and things, this is where she died.
Yeah, it's just more
Like she was dead.
Yeah. Of course, we'll clarify that's the last minute of the movie has a whole big thing about that. Where you're gonna
wait and see, wait and listen.
Yeah, get into the nitty gritty of that. But yeah, this is I think for like Catwoman's story arc in this movie, that's pretty much the kind of it's a perfect way to end it. Really, like it just ends in this tragedy where she doesn't get any better. Like
because what's going to happen to Selina? Like, say she kills Shrek, and then she goes off. Like, what's she going to do now? She's not going to go back to normal. She's too far gone at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's just kind of like, Batman had a kindred spirit that he hoped that he could save. Because then if he can stop her, maybe he can stop his own compulsions. But no, you couldn't stop her, and now you're gonna go on being Batman as well.
Yeah. She's got her own. I mean, I always saw this as kind of an origin story for her, that she would maybe go off, and because there's so much, and this is back, I guess it would be 2 minutes from now. I think she really asserts independence, that she's as much as she would like to be the partner to him. And live in his castle and be his queen and do that. I think that she's really breaking hard from the patriarchy in all ways.
Yeah.
And so I really see her as, if you take it as she survives all of this, that she would go off and really be that comic book Catwoman that I think we're more accustomed to or know, as somebody who's going off and breaking into high level organizations and stealing espionage, commercial espionage, corporate espionage documents and that kind of thing, stealing jewels, and really just kind of lives on her own terms after this, that this is her breakout.
I could see that. Well, she'd kind of have to do that, wouldn't she, to survive? Because I mean, she hasn't got a job. She can't just go to work like at a factory or something. So that makes sense. She needs to do something, and she clearly wants to do something important.
Mm-hmm.
And she's we've said it before. She's quite an inspirational character, despite being a technical villain.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's the thing, actually, Molly. Like, what was because we did have a lot of people came in. Like, we had Clarice Lottery came in, and she was like, I think primarily the reason she was on the show is just because she wanted to talk about Catwoman. Like, I don't even know if we'll get her back for Batman Forever, because she might like, is Catwoman in that one? I don't care. Like, that's what she was so focused on. I love this version of Catwoman. Yeah, and then we had, like, Kiri Callaghan came on. She's like, she was a bit much. I wasn't all that into it. And then you had Crystal Beth came on, and she was just like, yeah, the problem is they have all the set dressing of her being empowered, but all she ever talks about is men. So she's not actually, she wouldn't pass the Bechdel test, that kind of thing. So what's your feeling on this iteration of Catwoman? Do you think she is empowered? Do you think she's too sexualized? Like, where do you land on the Catwoman scale?
I think that this is a process of a woman breaking out and finding herself. I think you have to look at the context of when this movie was made, which was 1992. So you're talking about, a boomer generation that was experiencing a level of liberation, well, kind of growing up into like a sexual liberation into the 60s. And this person who has had quite a bit of oppression. And of course, this is heavy handed because this is the context of the movie. And actually, I just want to say as a side note, and I haven't, there might be literature about this that was written at the time that it came out, but there's quite a bit of very interesting social politics in this movie that I didn't appreciate when it first came out and really appreciated far later.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that she's somebody who is discovering her own empowerment. And because she's discovering her own empowerment, you're seeing things not in this, because we forget that in personal growth, I'm digging deep here, but in personal growth, you don't necessarily know where you're going, and you have to find your way. And so she's finding her way through being sexually liberated. She's finding her way in kicking gentlemen to the door who do not serve her. She's kicking a career that doesn't serve her. She's trying to find who she is as an empowered woman, and it's sloppy and messy along the way. And so I think that's what we're seeing is a lead up to somebody breaking through in their own personal power and wisdom. So that's my 2 cents.
Oh.
Yeah, that's excellent. Yeah, that's all spot on. That's pretty much how we've been seeing it, but it's better coming from you.
But although you actually kind of set us up there for a point I was going to bring up now, because I guess if not now, when? To quote Alfred Pennyworth from the last movie,
right?
Because you're talking about this as an origin story for Catwoman and what she done next. Famously, there was supposed to be a Catwoman standalone movie that was supposed to follow this. Tim Burton was in talks to direct it. At various points of his career was like, oh yeah, and Michelle Pfeiffer saying like early 2000s, oh, I think Tim Burton's talking about this, but I don't know if it'll ever happen and stuff. And I remember the interview with Dan Waters where he's just saying, he's been bemoaning like what happened. And he's just like, oh yeah, his exact quote was, poor Michelle Pfeiffer was a tragic victim of our inertia. She's the one who wanted and needed a Catwoman movie most of all. I ended up next to her at a buffet line at a Hollywood event once, and all she could say to me was, why? Why?
Oh.
So,
that's horrible. I don't want to hear that.
Dan Waters did go on to write and deliver a draft of a Catwoman movie, following on from the events of this film. And his pitch involved her going to relax in a place called Oasisburg, which is essentially what as what New York is, or what Gotham is to New York. This is Palm Springs basically. And she has, and this is the part that lost me. She has amnesia. I was like, nope. No, don't want amnesia. Don't want it.
You hate amnesia plots even more than me.
No, I despise amnesia plots, because it's just like, we're here to see a character. We're not here to friggin' dither around and wait for the character to show up. But
hang on. There is one sort of amnesia plot that's good. Twin Peaks: The Return.
Yeah, that was the thing. Like, the only one that ever got me was the Twin Peaks: Return one, because I was like, well, there's a lot else going on here. And by like the 10th episode, you're like, they're taking a piss now that he's not back.
Deliberately.
And then the thing is, then when he does show back up and he does the I am the FBI lines, I was freaking in tears and stuff. I was like, it's been so long, I'm so happy he's back. And I wouldn't have got that if he was just there from the first episode. So, apparently she would go to a resort area in the middle of the desert, run by
dessert.
in the middle of the desert, she runs out to a resort. And it's run by superheroes, and the movie had great fun at making fun of the whole male superhero mythos. They end up not being very good at it, and she has to get back to being Catwoman, essentially. And apparently that draft was delivered the day Batman Forever came out in cinemas as well. Interesting note in the article. But
let's do a dramatic reading of that draft as a bonus.
Of course, then as things moved on, it got like into other various people taking shots at this thing. They were talking about like recasting like Ashley Judd, actually from Twin Peaks: The Return, was in talks to be in. Yeah. And Nicole Kidman, weirdly enough, was going to be in it at one point, even though she played Dr. Chase Meridian in Batman Forever, as we'll get to in great depth. And eventually, though, quite recently it's come out that the screenwriter John August, who has worked frequently with Tim Burton, unfortunately on a lot of Tim Burton's worst movies as well. John August.
No.
I was saying that he did write Big Fish as well, so Big Fish, one of Tim Burton's best. But he also did, Dark Shadows, Frankenweenie, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Actually, Frankenweenie's not too bad. I'll give him that.
I was going to say, don't diss Frankenweenie. That's fine.
And, in terms of like, I guess maybe if you wanted to go for like what vibe would this Catwoman movie have had, he also wrote both Charlie's Angels movies. So if it was going for that kind of bubblegum pop girl power vibe, it could have been a very different movie than this anyway, I'll tell you. But he's also wrote the new Aladdin that's coming out pretty soon. He recently revealed on Twitter his pitch that he got that he delivered in 1998. And he was told by Warner Brothers executives that they were considering Sarah Michelle Gellar for the part. Very young, particularly in 98, because that's like friggin' Buffy season 2 kind of at that point. And one of their other instances was that there had to be a hair washing scene that like, I think people in the Twitter thread are like, what, that she would be
Okay.
washing her own hair, or that Selina would be washing someone else's hair? And they're like, they were very insistent that she had to be washing someone else's hair at some point.
What? Why? What's...
It's up to Hollywood producers, man. The guy was Kevin Smith has that famous story about John Peters and his Superman pitch, where he's just like, "There's got to be a giant spider in the third act." Like that was his insistence.
Just because.
Yeah, he just wanted that. So obviously somebody at Warner Brothers was like, "I want a hair washing scene." Maybe he saw this and he's like, "Look at her hair. That's amazing. I got to get clean."
That's a strange fetish. I've never heard of like a hair washing fetish before.
Oh, they'll be out there.
I have seen a movie once where the villain, I think he was a killer. I can't remember what the film is, but he was into washing. Oh, was it the X-Files? It wasn't a movie then. I think it might have been an evil guy in the X-Files, something like that. He was into washing women's hair specifically, and he'd lure them back to his place, through lies and things, and convolute like a way to get them in the bath and wash their hair for them.
Interesting.
Very strange. So some people must like it.
Well, some people like everything, man.
Well, yeah. I guess it's a thing.
People out there who like balloons being deflated and stuff. It's like, because as long as you're not hurting anybody. But
yeah, you do you.
Yeah. But yeah, he let out a couple of things about his draft, where again there was amnesia involved. So I'm like, and I believe actually when Scott Corelli was on, we talked briefly about it, where he's like, oh, there would have been a thing where Catwoman still existed in her subconscious, and she was kind of like she went to another town. She went to Lake City, Chicago. And Catwoman was committing crimes, but Selina Kyle wasn't aware of it. Which is a thing that was actually in one of I think we talked about it briefly a couple episodes back, where there is a storyline way back in like the golden age where someone tries to kind of gaslight Selina Kyle into thinking that Catwoman's committing crimes and that she's not aware of it and stuff. So I guess that's what they were going for. But one of the things that really gets me is that she goes back to the Lake City, Chicago, where she comes from. And we meet her family. We meet, she has a city council father, a civic mother, a highly successful middle sister, a trouble-finding younger sister. And by normal standards, Selina is tremendously unsuccessful. No husband, secretary job, pushing 40. There's a whole bit where she meets Bruce Wayne at a hospital, and she kind of has a vague memory of who she is and stuff. And when Catwoman starts hitting up, committing crimes, kind of Tyler Durden-esque, in this Lake City,
I like this. Yeah.
The city band together to create their own superhero called Victory and stuff like this. And you only get a couple of little bits and bobs of this suggested draft, but that could have apparently was rejected. But that was could have been part of a Catwoman movie. And of course, we did get a Catwoman movie eventually.
For better or worse. We should definitely cover that for an episode or something, because there's a lot to say about that movie. And I haven't watched it since it came out.
I think that's going to be like the first port of call after. Like, the first I hit this episode will probably be that Catwoman movie. Because we kind of dodged around it a lot. We're like, well, then this happens and stuff. It's like, now we better get into it. But yeah, because then after all that, explosions somewhat die down, and then we get the emerging from the water, the return of Oswald Cobblepot.
He's alive!
Dun, 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 dun.
Duh. I love his emergence, the slow rise as bits of fire rain down. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Although he is looking a bit worse for wear.
Yeah. It kind of weirdly reminded me of in Apocalypse Now at the end when Willard comes out of the water to kill Kurtz. Because I guess he is like, oh, I'm going to go and kill Batman. So maybe in his head, like, I'm kind of like Kurtz in that bit of I'm like Willard in that one bit of Apocalypse Now.
That's exactly what he was channeling, I'm sure, including all the black stuff pouring out of his mouth. Spot on. The black stuff, not Guinness. No, it's toxic waste or his blood. We're not entirely sure. It seems to be toxic waste, but then if he's dying why is there so much of it pouring out of his mouth in a blood-like manner? You could say, well, he swallowed it. It doesn't track. I don't know.
There's a lot of questions to do with Oz, but then because most of the next minute is him walking towards Bruce Wayne.
Yes.
Should we leave it until then, maybe?
Yes, as he wheezes towards us.
Yeah.
I do have one note which I forgot to bring up. Yet again the strict revised draft. There's an extra bit of dialogue in this minute with Catwoman just before she goes to kiss Shrek. She says, "You're the light of Gotham City, so be the light of Gotham City," and then lights him up, which is just that, as usual with that draft. Too much dialogue.
I mean, I get that's at least a callback to him doing like, I am the light of the city, and I am the stark and twisted soul, all that stuff. But again, nah, you don't need that.
You don't need it. It goes overboard. We've said it before, but I imagine his technique was, right, I'm gonna write this insanely long draft just with everything crammed into it, and then they can whittle it down.
Yeah. But yeah, Molly, do you have any other notes about this particular minute you would want to bring up yourself?
Well, there's a couple things. Speaking of Penguin emerging from this water and or sludgy toxic goo, this really reminded me of the scene where the Joker gets made. And you see his hand pop up out of the runoff. That's what I felt like. That was
That's
like
an excellent point.
A hearkening back to me. And then there's another,
there has been. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
There has been a few kind of allusions to that and similarities, actually, to the Joker. A couple running through. So that's an excellent point. It's probably, at least visually, meant to be like a callback. It's poetry. It rhymes.
Oh.
The old Star Wars.
That would have been terrible, though. They decided, no, it's the same chemical, and now he emerges as, the Joker Penguin.
Da-da-da!
It's just
Oh, I
remember at
would
the
love
end of Predator versus Alien versus Predator, when you got the Pred Alien? This is the Penguin and the Joker. They're one guy.
This sounds amazing.
It does. Maybe he'd be better at his job then. It'd be like an underworld thing, It'll be a Lycan and a vampire and just would kick everybody's ass.
Oh, actually, there was one big friggin' major thing in this minute that we should address, because we kind of tiptoed around it, but I guess now would be the time to completely clarify it. Of course, one of the greatest urban legends about Batman Returns would emerge from this scene where people are like, do you know? Originally, it was going to be Harvey Dent, and then he gets scarred in this scene, and then he becomes Two-Face. They were planning to make him Two-Face in the next one. And that's a thing that's going around the internet for years. I remember believing that myself for many, many years. And it's still, contended to this day. Oh, yeah, no, it was a draft about, where that happened. I can say, from covering this movie a minute at a time, having read several drafts, all the available drafts, having read interviews with Dan Waters, etc., that is categorically false. That has never been a thing. Dan Waters has said that he did have a draft where Harvey Dent was in it and he was injured, and it would end with him flipping a coin. But it wasn't him as Two-Face, it was more an allusion to Two-Face.
Yeah, I think the truth is probably in the middle, though, I think they had maybe the idea to do this, but never went forward with it. Because it seems like it would make perfect sense. Because he was contracted to be in the films. So it would make perfect sense. So I think they probably sat down and were like, no, we're changing it.
No. The thing is, because Sam Hamm obviously brought in a draft, Harvey Dent doesn't feature in that draft in that manner. That's the only one he wrote was that. Then Dan Waters came in. Max Schreck as a character is a creation of Dan Waters, and he has said that no, it's never in any of his drafts, and no one else wrote a draft. So if Dan Waters said that didn't happen, then it didn't happen. Basically, it was. I think it might have been one of those things where somebody on IMDb wrote that and was just like, "Yep, that's what I think." It's
possible. I don't know. I could see it being true, but at the same time, IMDb does come out with a lot of crap. No, not the organization.
IMDb did flat out say at one point that Tim Burton appeared in the friggin' as one of the Joker's goons in the gallery scene in the last movie, and we know because we were looking at it a minute at a time that he ain't there. So
nope. Again, maybe there was the idea he was going to do that. Wouldn't it be fun if I did that? No.
There's also like, oh yeah, they're going to cast Ernest Borgnine as the Joker. It's like, Ernest Borgnine be like 60 at that point? Well, I guess Jack Nicholson was 52 at the time.
Yeah. Perfect.
But yeah, Molly, do you have anything else you want to talk about in this minute? Or?
The one thing I wanted to touch on, which I find kind of interesting, is that in all of the movies, we see Batman hustle, and he puts himself in exceptional danger, right? Even when he's gravely wounded. And he seems a little slow in these minutes, I gotta say. A little ineffectual. You know, and I understand that there was a large explosion and there's, self-preservation, but the guy's kind of shown that he's, willing to put himself on the line. I mean, think about how he went after Vicky Vale, being on top of the cathedral, and then he's just kind of like, she's got this. I'm gonna hang back here.
She'll be fine.
So
it's interesting. Yeah. Why is he taking that approach? Why is he not jumping in? Oh, sorry, I spoke over you there.
No.
Audio cut out for me.
No, I was curious if you guys had any type of reaction to that, or if that had, come up for you at all in checking it out.
Well, it is actually, I will say, like, your one defense of him could be like, well, Max Schreck did shoot him, or shot at him, and apparently it grazed him, but he fell down anyway. But then, to counteract that, it's like, well, there is a bit in the first movie where Bruce Wayne gets a bullet grazes his arm, and he doesn't even react to it. So, it's kind of like, yeah, maybe, like, Bruce Wayne almost getting shot wouldn't faze him. Like, he'd just be like, oh, what, a bullet grazed past my cheek. I doubt that would have had him flat on his back for the whole damn minute while all this stuff. Well, the woman he loves is having a complete breakdown about to kill a guy. So that is true. I guess it is just like plot convenience. We just need him to not be active for a bit. So
Basically, yeah. 100%.
So unless they were just like, I mean, they could have done a thing where he got shot in the flat out chest, and then you could have seen that it was the bullet was lodged in the bat symbol or something, and it was like the G-force sent him back, and he bumped his head or something, and that's why he's dazed, and he's not really doing anything like very Batman-like, because he's very slow, as you say, slow and ineffectual here. But yeah, that is perfectly true. And my only defense of it would be like, they just need it to be like that, so they can do the things that they need to do.
No, I think you're right. I think it's just it's a little bit tough, and especially considering, harkening back to the first Batman, where he's introduced and he's going after the guys who just like ripped off the family, and they shoot him 3 times, and he falls down, and they stop, and they turn around, and he just gets right back up. Just boop, just like that. Yeah. So this guy got shot 2 less times, but he's down for the count for a couple of minutes. So I think I just needed something else visually so I could understand, like, well, you don't have the thin layer of rubber around your head. Maybe that's a shock absorber for you. Typically, do you have a concussion? Like, what's going on for you right now? Do you need an aspirin? I don't know. I need something.
It should be great him on the Alfred. I need an aspirin. The comings up. That'd be great.
He asks for that at some point. Doesn't he ask for some antibiotic at some point? He's like, Alfred, you hook me up with some Neosporin.
Alfred can provide whatever you want.
Oh, really?
It's like, as we took all those weird kinks we were talking about earlier in the episode. Alfred can get you whatever you need out of that. But yeah, I'm all set to go for this minute. Unless anyone else has any other points people want to bring up or anything.
No, I'm all tapped out.
Yep, I'm good. Thank you.
Great. We'll depart once more. We will head off into the dark, dark night. And Molly, would you like to remind our listeners where they can find you and your wonderful work?
Yes, you can find me at Escape from New York Minute, which is on Growler Media, which is growlermedia.com. And you can follow us on Facebook, which is the Brains Library, the Escape from New York Minute Hangout. And we're also on Twitter at NY Minute Pod.
And you probably know where we are by now, so I can't be bothered. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. There's a Tumblr. We've got Discord if you want to message me and get it, because nobody uses it but me and Sean German. And one random person who won't. I won't name them because they don't want to go on the Facebook group for privacy reasons. So I assume they don't want me to say their name on air. But so join us and you can chat to more people. It's fun. And the Facebook, the Discord, you don't have to talk about the show. You don't even have to talk about Batman. You can talk about anything. Who cares? Just talk. It's fun. Fun, like-minded people. And join us again on Friday, where we will round out the week with minute 117. See you then.
I was about to say, like, did we do minute 100 way back one?
Let's dramatic build. Right, I'll stop.
Next time, Holy Barbecue Billionaire. The hellish catacomb continues to combust in the Cobblepot catacombs, and the Cape Crusader is incredulous over Catwoman's doom. But while a carcinogenic capitalist is all that's left in the kitty's litter box, will a submerged and married mutant manage to give Batman one final shock? Find out Friday. Same Bat Pod, different Bat Minute.